If you want to stay in the same situation, then continue doing what you're doing.
And you guys can get on board and go down this 4-lane highway and just rock it out, and you don't have to have a decade of learning process.
Meet people where they are. If you want to have all types of clients, be a Rubik's Cuber. Meet them where they want to be met.
We have to know our numbers. We have to know how much we want, and then how many deals do I have to close to make that a reality?
What I want to do over the next half hour or so is give you clarity on the items that really are going to generate money for you and allow you to do the things you want to do.
So if you're not currently being coached by the people in the industry that are doing it at the highest level, then you're working too hard to get there.
This is the Next Level Loan Officers Podcast with Kenneth Travis and Sean Zalmanoff.
Good morning, Next Level Loan Officers. Sean Zalmanoff here with my friend Mark Maiocca. Mark, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Sean. Thanks for having me.
So, Mark, you sound like you might be from the great Northeast in our country here. Where are you? You're from Boston, right?
Yeah, Boston, Mass. I'm from a suburb outside of Boston called Newton. But yeah, Boston. It's like 10 minutes.
So Patriots fan, Red Sox fan?
All of the above.
So I've gotten over the Rams' losses to the Patriots, especially since they've moved on from St. Louis. But those Red Sox World Series were something when you guys took it to us a few years. Congratulations on those victories.
Well, thank you. It's about time they won it.
They were well deserved. You guys are crushing it this year too.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Baseball's a funny game like that. Anything can happen.
Yes, it is. So you are a 14-year industry veteran, Mark?
Actually, it's up to like 20 now. It's started 1997.
Wow. 1997. So the business has changed a little bit in the last 21 years now that we've been rolling through this here.
Yes.
So what got you into the industry in the first place?
Totally by accident. I wanted to be a stockbroker, and I actually went to Arizona. Who goes to Arizona to be a stockbroker? That was me. And I realized very quickly I didn't want to be a stockbroker, and I had family out there, and I was kind of just stuck. I'll never forget, I sent out 50 resumes. I only got 2 responses. One was a multi-level marketing company, and another was Motorola, just to tell me that they received my resume. So I called my cousin, and he told me, he's like, "Oh, you want to be a loan officer?" Because he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I'd love to have something that if I do a good job at it, sky's the limit for income." He said, "You want to be a loan officer?" I had no idea what a loan officer. I thought I'd be carrying a gun and guarding the bank or something. I had no idea.
You didn't wake up one morning like the rest of us and just know at 6 years old you wanted to be in the mortgage business?
No, not at all. It was totally by accident. But once I got in, I said, wow, this is a really cool business. And the funny thing was I kind of said to myself, wow, if I was back home in Newton where I know everybody and I have a lot of, friends and family, this business would I could probably do pretty good in this business. So
when did you make the move back home?
5 months after I got there. It was more because I realized that I missed home, but finding the mortgage business, gave it kind of some purpose.
Perfect. It's definitely easier to grow that business in your backyard.
Yeah.
So how so you started out, trucking along like most of us do as your own loan officer. When did you start to build a team, and what did that look like? And, go ahead, and it might be a little long-winded, but how did it evolve over the course of the last 20 years? So by 1998, you're back in the suburbs of Boston, and the economy's doing pretty good at that time. So it was a good time to be in the business, good time to enter the business. And so how did your career evolve and your team evolve?
Well, that's a great question, because it very slowly. So I came back. It took me 3 years really to get ramped up. It was a big learning experience. If I wasn't a young guy, living at home with mom, I don't know if I would have made it, just because it took me a while to learn the business. So, my first 3 years, I think I did 10 million in closed loans combined, not each year, the whole time. And then in 1999, I started to get it. And
What happened?
I learned the products a little bit better. I developed a process. I was all over the place for the first 3 years, and I kind of really got clear on the process. It's very simple as a mortgage realtor. Get all the information up front, analyze it, then talk to the client about what you can do. I kind of had it backwards, and I get in a little bit of trouble because I didn't have the whole story. So the process came down, made some friends in the industry, got my database together where, I just started staying in touch with people where people knew what I did and how to reach me. And then third year was 18 million. Then I hit 45 million, then 70 million. And then I started closing, over 100 million each year. And then, I looked to slow down after that. And I've been probably in the 30 to 50 million range for the past 6 or 7 years, with a little bit more quality of life than I had back in the $100 million years.
So that's impressive. So 10 million combined for your first 3 years.
Something like that.
Year number 4, 18 million.
And that was the year that I was most proud of myself. I really thought I did something great. I got an award that year. It wasn't a top award, but I had never got an award for business. It was sports related, yes, but I had never, not in school, not in anything. It was a big deal to me.
Well, roughly 600%. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying, now I look back and say, wow, 18 million is very, very achievable. I thought it was this great feat, but it was cool. It was great at the time.
I mean, you definitely deserved an award. I mean, that's about 600% sales growth. So pretty darn impressive. So what changed? Like, if you were going to tell yourself when you started in the industry, from what happened in that year 4, so you had your database built, people knew what you were doing a little more, but what really changed? People don't experience 600% sales growth without some epic change. So what did you do differently during that time that if you were going to go tell your 1997 self, man, Mark, this is what you need to do from day one, what would have that been?
I think I created the USP. I finally said, you know what, when I do a loan for a client, I'm going to make sure it's integrated into their overall financial plan. I want to, talk about not just what I can do with the loan, not the, here's my rate, but how the whole entire loan structure fits into their overall financial plan, how real estate fits into their overall financial plan. And I started to base my business around the loan consultation, the 20 to 45-minute loan consultation on what's important about the loan to the client. That was the big difference. And that so many other things came from that, just the outgoing referrals, the great advice, and I just started building from there.
So you, instead of trying to sell them something, you provided a service and created value, and then they couldn't live without you.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, that's right.
Well, versus other loan officers. I mean, as a branch manager, as running a couple branches, as a loan officer, I mean, early on, and even sometimes veterans, man, we struggle with selling the deal so much, man. You got to know your ideal client profile. Sometimes it's just easier to let them go. Know who appreciates the value you're bringing to the table. Somebody who wants the entire mortgage picture to see where that fits in their financial plan. And if that's not what they want, if they want the cheapest rate, if they want this, if they want that, sometimes it's just easier to let them go in the first 20 minutes instead of finding out about that 3 weeks later.
You're right. Absolutely.
So it's very valuable. Everybody listening to this, it's incredibly valuable to understand that ideal client profile and sit down with your clients on the front end to make sure that the fit. Everybody is going to respect you more for that. So you went up. So then you went 40 million, then you went 100 million. Now I know you got some other things that I want to ask you about, but I'd like to know a little bit about your team. So what did your team look like when you were doing 100 million? what does it look like in this 30-ish range, 30 to 50 range that you're in now? And, let us know what kind of technologies that you're using to make your life easier too.
Okay. In the $100 million years, I had the team was built up at most to a team of 6. I had someone who just did my marketing. I had a director of business development that was, trying to generate some leads for me. I had 2 production partners and my processing. Now looking back, I probably could have structured it a little bit better. I could have been a little more detailed on the job descriptions. But then what happened was I got married. I had 3 kids, and so I wanted a little bit more quality of life. So right now I'm a team of 3. I have a great production partner, a great I call him the transaction coordinator. He's kind of a junior LO, upfront person, gathers all the documents. He can do loans, but kind of stays in-house. And I do the loan consultation, the annual mortgage reviews, the one-on-one partnership planning sessions, and we kind of handle it from there. And we have a little bit more of a balanced day. It's more of a 9 to 5 than it is 12, 14 hours a day like it used to be.
So you're still meeting with your clients 20 years later. You're still doing the face-to-face, doing what you do best. So is that consultation? Is that your money zone? Is that the number one thing that you're doing that brings you in the dollars and the relationships?
Absolutely. And I still do them by phone, just because I find the clients like to do it. I'd like to do it face-to-face. But, a lot of times they're much more comfortable doing it by phone with, with some of the stuff we get. And that's kind of where the technology piece comes in to piggyback on that. We use Mortgage Coach a lot. That's kind of my go-to is have the conversation with them, discuss what's important to them, and then show them how it fits into their overall plan in writing.
We use Mortgage Coach a lot. Several other of my partners use Mortgage Coach a lot. I mean, it is a those edge presentations are fantastic tools. I mean, one of the lines that we've come up with and been using recently is when somebody's presenting us, hey, we got this offer, like, hey, we sent you that awesome presentation. Can you send me their edge presentation so I can compare this for you? Because it adds so much value when you're putting in the numbers and showing time value of money and just showing what they can do with their investments, that it really is something to help differentiate ourselves in this market. How long have you been a Mortgage Coach user for?
I've been using it since, that was part of when I realized that USP back in 2000. I used the original one, which was, almost just like an Excel spreadsheet, but it was still great. And then I upgraded to Analyze, and now Edge, I have to be honest, I need a little bit of work on the technology with the video, but, I've been using it. It's part of my presentation since 2000. So it's kind of I don't know how I get along without it.
So when you're doing your conferences with people, is it just strictly on the phone, or are you setting up a Zoom conference or a go-to meeting or something like that along the way too?
It's still on the phone.
Okay.
Technology is a little bit of a sticking point for me. It takes me a while to adapt to something, but once I start doing it, that's kind of the way. So Zoom is my next step. I think it's great, but
you're not doing the face-to-face. So, the Zoom is a great conference. There's a bunch of them out there. I have a client who is he's $100+ million producer in Chicago. And he was meeting with his clients until several months ago when we met. Face-to-face. He was stacking 7-8 appointments on Saturdays and Sundays. And man, he's been an amazing implementer, but turned him on to Zoom and he's like 0 drop off. Everybody loves it. In fact, some people even love it more because they can do it from the comfort of their home, their office, and it takes 30 minutes instead of an hour. The video conferencing is just, I don't know how my life could live without it either.
It's going to be the standard. I can see it. It's just I have to get used to using it.
It's no time like today to start, right?
Right. You're right.
So what other technology are you using inside of your business besides Mortgage Coach, or is that the main piece that just kind of seams it all together for you?
I mean, that's the main piece for me. My transaction coordinator, who's been with me for a while, we've used ACT for our database. Now at my current company, we have another database system that we're using. We still do both, just because ACT has a lot of stuff in it that we still use.
And it's your database and you own it?
Yes.
No.
And it's also internally, they have a very good system at the company I'm at, and it just really it's really starting to work. We're getting used to it. We just got to the company 6 months ago, so we're kind of getting ramped up, learning some new technologies.
How was the transition for you?
It was tough. It always is. I mean, there's fall off. There's people who, just ignore the new emails making the announcement. The mail, you do a mailing, they might not see that. So it's always tough, but it's necessary. It's a hurdle that just happens in our industry, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, no, I've never heard anybody who told the truth and said, man, I did this transition and it was amazing. Some are definitely better than others. I really appreciate you being incredibly transparent with us today. A lot of $100 million producers or $30 million producers, man, it just got on, man. The business was easy. For me in my career early on, if it wasn't for my dad helping out and stringing some months together here and there for me, we wouldn't be having this conversation together either. And, you got to have that belief and push through and just understand where you were, where you're going. And that was something else we were talking about earlier, Mark. So in the real estate business, realtors talk about location, location, and location. And in our mortgage world, we talk about realtors, and realtors, but that's actually not your full business. Tell me what you developed here.
Well, it started with, I'll try to make this as quick as possible. So when I was doing 100 million, I wasn't necessarily, the money was great, but I wasn't that happy with my business because it was, I felt like I had a lot of shallow relationships with my business partners where I was only as good as the last deal. I saw them potentially breaking up, and they did, for a couple different reasons. Some got knocked out of the business because they couldn't maintain through 2008. Some, that we had a breakup. So during that time, my whole quest was how can I make this partnership even? I didn't want to be a vendor. I wanted it to be a partnership. And so I started to have these meetings with some of my best partners. And we created something that's called Core 7 groups. And basically all it is a networking group just for the 7 professionals: the realtor, mortgage originator, real estate attorney or escrow officer, depending on what state you're in, property and casualty insurance agent, accountant, financial planner, and estate planning attorney. And we would all meet every single week. And we came up with a methodology and a way to have these meetings that generate predictable, systematic referrals. So from that point till now, I have 2 of those that are probably, depending on the year, about 50% of my business comes from those 2 core groups in my database.
So you have 2 groups like that you're the mortgage guy with 6 other people in each of those groups.
Correct. Actually, one of them only has 5 people and the other one has 7. And the one that has 5 produces a lot more.
Really? Why is that?
Just some, it's been around longer. Believe it or not, it should be the other way. The newer group has 7, and they're still kind of learning the system. We're still getting along with that, where the one that has 5 has been in existence for, 3 of the 5 have been in existence for, 10 plus years. And a lot of the database is aligned with that company. So we track which group, gets those referrals. Like I was telling you earlier, In a 2.5 year period, I gave the financial advisor 70 referrals that actually became clients of his, and the realtor 18 that closed. I mean, it's one of those very accountable, systematic meetings that it's very predictable. So you're not going to a meeting like some other networking groups and coming out of there going, well, I wonder if I'm ever going to get any referrals from this. This is, predictable, where if you're not executing, it's kind of what's going on? Is there something I can ask, is there something I'm doing wrong that you're not comfortable introducing me to your clients? And, so those two groups have kind of been the bread and butter of my business. But again, it all on my side, it all incorporates into that consultation, that it's all based on the loan consultation and contact with the client.
Because you're asking the questions, identifying their needs, and being able to refer them out afterwards, correct?
Absolutely.
So it's really interesting. I can imagine that the accountability inside of a group of 5 or 7 is substantially higher than in some of the other groups. And, not to pick on any structures or how it works, but, myself and you don't really need to be meeting with the travel agents or the person who sells supplements inside of those groups. And so that's a really highly focused use of your time.
Exactly. Each person has their specific things they're supposed to do, which actually it benefits the client and their overall financial plan. And there's a story that kind of starts it, that's written in my book. When I was in 1986, my dad passed away of cancer unexpectedly, and long story short, we lost basically all of our assets, and it's because he had no life insurance. So the ironic part about the whole thing is my parents sold insurance for a living. They sold properties. Yeah, so it's like, the cobbler's kids have no shoes. And I didn't really understand it back then. I was very young. I was 16, but I always thought of it. And then when I became a mortgage originator, I was talking to my mother, and she was still running the insurance agency. She ended up having to sell it because of the need for money. But I said to her, she used to always talk about how much she loved her mortgage originator. And I used to say, Ma, I got to be honest with you. I think he was terrible. And she said, why is that? And I said, you bought 2 houses, you did multiple refinances, and never once did he say to you, you've increased your debt. You really should make sure you protect this. How's your relationship with your financial advisor who specializes in insurance? Every time he closed, he could have said that. My mother responded, she said, you're right. He probably thought we were all set. And that's what most people think. And most people aren't all set. And even if they know what to do, there's no guarantee that they've actually put it in place. So we have a job to actually suggest these things, when we're talking to our clients. Even if it seems like it's intrusive, it's our job to make the suggestion, just to make sure that it's not something that someone's missing.
I mean, it's our fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're doing that. I mean, to really look ourselves in the mirror every day and call ourselves a mortgage professional, we're not order takers. And unfortunately, a huge portion of the industry has just fallen into that bucket. And, there are few industries, if any, on the planet that you can close as many of something as we can in a year with the kind of commissions that we can make. I mean, why not go that extra step? And not only are you adding a ton of value, but man, Mark's mom's mortgage guy, I mean, she loved him, and he barely fulfilled the service, got him closed, got him refinanced. And just asking those few questions, showing some empathy, showing you care goes so much in all of our lives, and anything that you do, it's beneficial to put that into. But gosh, just think if you had a little more empathy, if we all had a little more empathy in our business.
Right.
That's really powerful. So, I debate asking people this sometimes, but I think you have a powerful one. Tell me about your why.
My why to do mortgages, what I'm passionate about when working with my clients is to make sure they have a holistic plan so they're protected. And that's why this whole thing with the 7, I feel like if you have one small hole in your financial plan, it doesn't matter how much you're making, how well you're doing. It's just people don't know everything that can happen to them. So I look at it as it's my job to put them in the right mortgage, stay in touch and save them money when rates drop, and make introductions to the proper professionals so they have protection. And I do tend to care more about my clients who understand that a little more than the one that says, I don't care about that, Mark. I don't really need that now. I just want to get your best price. That to me doesn't give me much fulfillment, although, that's what we have to do sometimes. But the ones that it really, you say my why is protecting the good people, putting them in a good financial plan, so that they can not only have a good life, but also maybe pass something on to their heirs.
So what I just heard you say is that your why 100% matches up with your ICP, with your ideal client profile.
Yeah, 100%.
I just think if anybody can take something away of really figuring out your passion in this business and matching that up, and so Mark can close the amount of loans he does annually, be doing this for 20 years and have the passion that you do in your business, man, that's incredibly impressive. So you have Core 7. So you developed this for you, realizing that there was a better way to get referrals and go deep in those relationships. Now you're kind of taking Core 7 to the next level. So tell us about what you're rolling out as literally as we speak right now.
Well, we wrote the book in 2012.
Literally, he wrote the book.
Yeah, we wrote the book. It's called What's Your Rate? How to Secure a Home. Now, how to buy a home and secure your financial future at the same time. A little bit of a long title. And the reason I wrote it was because I thought, the reason we called it What's Your Rate is because I think that's the worst question a client can ask, because sometimes it's more expensive than the proper structure like we talked about. So from that book, it describes someone going through my process and getting their full Core 7 team together. That was the first step. And now we've rolled out a course on how to create a structured mastermind group to generate referrals and add value to your clients. And it's going to be rolling out in a couple months. And basically it's just an online course that'll take you step by step on how to recruit your team, how to learn the referral methodology, how to manage your mastermind groups, and how we'll keep you accountable moving forward. And that should be out probably, we're hoping for October 1st.
Yeah, that's very, that's exciting to me. I was involved in a few of them early in my career. This is my 16th year in the business. And whenever anybody talks about a referral organization or something like that, I cringe a little bit. And, my standard joking reply is always like, well, when there's one of me and 20 realtors in the group, I'll join it again. And right. It's such a difference here because it's a very structured plan with the people who are just going to send you business. What a great idea. I can't believe that hasn't been thought of before, man. Sometimes the simplest things just staring us right in the face, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So if somebody wanted to find out more about this, how would they find out more about Core 7?
Well, let me give you an email. If you're interested, it would be at mark@mycore7.com. And we also have a website that should be live by the time this podcast goes out, I'm hoping. And that's mycore7.com.
Is that 7 number or spelled out?
mycore7thenumber.com.
mycore7thenumber.com. Awesome. So anything else with your years of wisdom and success in the business that if you were speaking to somebody who was just starting in the business, somebody who's been around for 5, 10, 20 years, any last thoughts to share with them?
Not that I can think of. The only thing I would say is that USP that we talked about. Find out what you're good at, what you want to do, and what would give you joy in this business. Because as you know, this business is great, but once you do it, you sometimes can feel like you're on a wheel. You know, if you're not running it the way that you want to run it, it can, no matter how much money you make, it can become something that becomes a little bit trying on you.
I don't talk to many people with who've been in the business as long as you and I have been in the business, Mark, who seem to enjoy, and I can just feel how much you really still enjoy doing what you do. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So again, Mark Maiocca, I really appreciate you joining us today. Again, I'm Sean Zalmanoff with Next Level Loan Officers. Of course, reach out to us if you'd like your free strategy session or have any other questions. Hope you all have a great day.